going to call the Administration of Public Works Committee of the Evanston City Council agenda or to order. We have a quorum this evening. We'll begin with public speakers. We only have one, Mr. David Gurin.
Good evening. It's a slight correction. Guran. No problem. First, I'm going to speak to item A 3.6. This is the 2016 extension of the janitorial services contract for multiple city facilities with Smith Maintenance Company. Now, I understand that you're trying to save money. However, by outsourcing this contract, you're essentially doing what's similar to what the federal government does by outsourcing to China. This government could employ these people directly and ought to and has in the past. So I would recommend not fulfilling this contract, and because otherwise you're actually over time you're going to be wasting money, because the people that work for here, do you know actually how much these people are making? And that's a question which I hope you give me a response. Are we paying minimum wage or less?
Just, it's our policy to not respond to citizens' comment. We can address it when that comes up. So.
I really understand that. But I mean, later on during the committee, if you could address that question.
Could you clarify the question in terms of, you're talking about these people, are you talking about the people that we're outsourcing to, or
Yes.
are you talking about city staff?
No, I'm talking about the people you're outsourcing to, the actual janitors that work for Smith Maintenance Company.
Okay.
How much are these people actually making? Probably most of it goes to the people in charge. Next item I'm going to speak to is item A4, relating to the fourth quarter financial report. Just to point out to the public that actually the city has $7 million less in cash compared to 2014. I just want to make that clear. And then in 2015. Next item I want to speak to is actually not directly for this committee, but will be brought up because I can't stay longer. This will be brought up at the March 21st Rules Committee, which all of the aldermen are on, related to the boards, committees, and commissions. First of all, the Foreign Fire Tax Board. On the city's website, there is no description of that.
Mr. Gurn.
Yeah.
So if you'd come back on the 21st Rules Committee to actually, that's not germane to our discussion tonight, just for the sake of time, we can cover all those items when they actually
I'm
proposed.
the only speaker for one, and two, this is just to get you a little.
Sure. Well,
yeah, plus I
please
won't
feel
have
free.
I won't have time as much time next on the 21st to speak. I'm the only person here right now. Please just give me like a minute more.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. The other issue I want to bring up is the Board of Ethics. Over the last 12 months, it's only met 4 times. And I actually attended, I believe it was the October meeting. And the reason they've had to cancel is because they haven't had a quorum. They're also missing 1 member, and I think 2 of the members have expired terms. And that's something that actually needs to be looked at. Is the mayor not doing her job by not filling these expired terms? Because it's also an expired term on the Parks and Recreation Department. And thank you for your time.
Mr. Gurn, too, if you can't make it at the Rules Committee, please email us your comments. We'd appreciate everything you have to say. So there's no more public speakers. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Second.
Okay. Is there any corrections or amendments to it? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. Alderman Braithwaite, we start with items A1 and 2.
Sure. I'd like to move item A1, City Evanston payroll through February 21st, 2016, in the dollar amount of $2,949,94.30. And I'd also like to move item A2, fiscal year 2016, City of Evanston bills list, March 15th, 26, and then the credit card activity period ending in January 31, 2016. Pardon me, I should have read those dollar amounts. It's $3,484,000. 443 and 30 cents, and for the credit card activity, it's $134,738.43. They're both for action.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. Alderman Rainey?
Bill's list, yes,
The
That's all right.
Any
Questions?
questions? We can go back if you'd like.
I'm sorry.
I'll do it. A 3.1, approval of the contract with Mid-America Water of Wakanda for the 2016 water distribution systems material in the amount of $49,646.06. This does not include fire hydrants.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. Alderman Holmes?
Approval of the sole source water treatment facility chlorine scrubber media replacement purchase from Leia Ltd. in the amount of $75,714. Move approval.
Second?
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. Alderman Braithwaite, A33.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'd like to move item 3.3, approval of the contract extension with Landscape Concepts Management, Inc. for Green Bay Road embankment landscaping. And that's in the dollar amount of $20,195.
Second?
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. Alderman Rainey?
A 3.4, approval of funding for business district tree replacement. This is in the amount of $92,775 and is from the Economic Development Fund's Business Retention and Expansion Account. Second.
With leave of the body, Assistant City Manager Marty Lyons, did you want to talk?
I just wanted to note that this is coming directly to AMPW because of the cancellation of the Economic Development Committee last month. So just for folks to be aware, but timing-wise, for a spring planting, it is time-sensitive.
Alderman Rainey?
Well, I wish we had had the meeting because I would like to have had a discussion about this. It seems to me that there are numerous sources that could be helping to pay for this rather than 100% out of the Economic Development Fund. And I know trees are important, and, you know, we're all getting our fair share of these trees. But I'm just wondering, what about downtown, the money we commit to downtown for their special service district and the whole downtown thing? No way we could have negotiated with some of those funds to take on some of this burden?
Mr. Chair? Yes, Alderman Rainey. Presently, the downtown budget is still strained from the reassessment downward on all of the property values. So they have been against their cap and have cut their budget by about it's been more than $50,000 each of the last couple of years. One other alternative, if the alderman and the committee would like us to look at, would be for the downtown, whether or not any Washington National TIF dollars would be eligible
That's
to
another
use for that.
source.
So if you would like, we can revisit that. I would not recommend, if any are going into Howard. Howard doesn't currently have the cash flow to do it, and we have the rest of the streetscape on Howard Hartree all covered as a part of the engineering redesign. So I would focus on the downtown, and we can do a follow-up if we approve the expenditure, we could do the follow-up with a transfer at a later date.
Yeah, I don't want to not approve the expenditure, but I would like us to take a look at the other sources. Because what we have left over, we could buy trees with from, another source.
We will follow up with the committee.
Any further questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. Alderman Holmes, go ahead.
A 3.5, approval of one replacement vehicle purchase from Russ Trust Center of Northern Illinois in the amount of $205,210.
Second.
And Mr. Voss, I understand there's a correction.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Assistant City Manager Lyons, Ricky Voss, Fleet and Parking. Yes, if you could look at page 81 of the packet. Unfortunately, I think I had a bad day that day and it entered the wrong description of the truck that we are replacing. It's got nothing to do with the truck that, so I need to change that from a Ford F-350 to an International Harvester 4900, the model year 1998, in the amount of the original purchase price of $94,278.
So we're
To correct
replacing
it.
International Harvester?
Yes, ma'am. With another International Harvester.
Okay, all right.
And that is how old? Then it's 16 or 18?
It's 16 years.
And it would have a useful life closer to 10 to 12, so the same logic for replacement would apply.
Okay.
Any further questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. Alderman Braithwaite.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to move item 3.6, approval of the extension of janitorial services contract for multiple city facilities with Smith Maintenance Company. It's in a dollar amount of $114,384.17.
I would second.
Alderman Holmes.
Mr. Lyons, would this even come into our, the question that was raised by the gentleman, the speaker? We wouldn't know what they pay their employees, would we?
At least not from the packet.
No, we would not have a specifics. They could have more senior staff, and they do have staff rotate through. It is based on schedules, meaning so many hours at each location. And when the original contract was reviewed, we looked and made sure that there was coverage at each facility covered under the contract. And if as a follow-up to the speaker's request, we can do the analysis because we have on staff current people who the city does not do complete outsourcing of janitorial. We have a mix, so we could do a brief comparison. I don't need unless the council wants something more forensic. We could do something that shows here's our hourly, here was their response on hourly, and what it might look like if we had it in-house. We believe it would be more expensive, but there's always something to be said for, with any multiplier effect. We do try to get this to be, as this is one contract, along with others like landscaping. We
You
work
were watching
hard, try and contact
City of Evanston, Channel
firms
16.
specifically to see if we can get Evanston firms. So in that respect,
Hey, Hard,
the
what's this?
outsourcing
That's
is
my
a
resignation
benefit to the
letter. You're
community.
resigning.
That's
Why?
not
Because
the,
you're
this is
constantly
one
ignoring
extension
me?
year,
You're half as
and then we'll
active
be
as
out
you
for
used to
bid
be and doing
later
stuff like
this
this.
fall,
You've been
so
putting
that
me under
when
a
we
lot
come
of
back
pressure
to you
lately.
next
That's
spring,
why I'm ready
it
to
will be
quit. I
with,
forgot.
a new
I'll do that.
contract or
Please.
and
Don't quit on
possibly
me.
a new
Okay.
analysis.
But remember,
Well, I mean,
it's not
I
what you
think that
say.
we also have
It's
to
what you
consider
do.
that when you are
Listen to
going
your
to
heart.
have them
Don't let it quit on you.
in-house,
Uncontrolled
there
high
are
blood
other
pressure
costs
could
that
lead
would
to a
have
stroke,
to
heart attack,
be,
or death. Get
calculated,
yours to a
such
healthy
as
range before it's too late.
insurance,
Yeah, workers' comp
vacation, workers'
benefits.
comp, all that. So that would certainly, there's a reason for doing it.
Well, for us, especially with the 30-hour rule for health insurance and then the 20-hour rule for Illinois Municipal Retirement Fund benefits as well. So it is but it is an analysis that we should do on occasion. We do take a look. We've brought things back in-house before that were outsourced. So
While we're on that topic too, if you would actually include other contracts that we outsource in a sense, for lack of a better term, in regards to comparable wages that we'd have to pay and benefits we'd pay in-house, if you can think of that as well. We just, an holistic view of the whole issue would be appreciated. Does that make sense? If there's other similar contracts where we could possibly do it in-house that you can think of, I might ask
Yeah.
you a lot.
What are you
but-
thinking? What are you thinking of, Alderman
Well,
Miller?
I can give you some examples. Street light maintenance is not done completely, traffic signal maintenance. Some of that's a very specialized business. The downtown contract where we have downtown maintenance, there's lots of them.
Right, and I think it's an interesting issue if we're going to be reconsidering some of these in the fall, in a sense. If there's anything, and again, I mean, I don't want you to comb through every contract we have, but if you could have a review of certain similar contracts, that, if there's a cost for doing it in-house.
I understand.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Alderman Rainey?
Well, one of the problems with doing the janitorial services in-house is I've spoken to some of the people who work in this organization, and they work like 4 and 5 hours. And, I mean, we wouldn't be able to cover them probably under our insurance, et cetera, whereas under the contractor, they are covered because they work here 5 hours, they work there 5 hours, they get all of their hours. And we're not going to hire somebody to clean our building for 5 hours. And I think it's very complicated, and as an example of another contract that we have, our garage management is very complicated, and I mean, you hire people full-time, you're into the pension problem. And I think everything we can do to avoid hiring full-time new positions is really important. Really important.
We will follow up with an analysis and also get you an ETA.
I think Alderman Miller, I'm sorry, could you downsize your request to maybe 3 other contracts? Because our staff could be working
Sure,
for
yeah.
days putting together your.
Right, and I don't want to overburden staff. And that's what I said, just kind of if there's an overview of similar contracts in a sense, I'd like to have, it's an interesting issue that we should be discussing of how we're treating our contract workers. So if there's, again, I'll leave it to the discretion of the assistant city manager.
And if I could just add one thing, when we first put the garages out for management, for private management, one of the requirements we placed on them was a certain number of Evanston employees. And it was interesting, when the contract came up for renewal, we found that there was great turnover because in order to maintain a lid on the price of the contract, they had to let go of Evanston, the ones that they had, hire new ones at a lower rate because we were only willing to pay so much for the total contract. So it didn't work out like we wanted it to. Just saying.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. Alderman Rainey? Item A4.
We are on A4. Fourth quarter financial report for fiscal year 2015. Staff is requesting that we recommend to the council that they accept and place the report on file.
Is there a second?
Second.
And with leave of the body, Mr. Assistant City Manager.
Yes, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, I will go through, I have a brief presentation regarding where we stood at December 31st, and in many cases close to where we thought we would be during the budget process, a few changes. So without further ado, 98% on our revenues, 97.5. The main reason for that, is noted at the bottom, is that we were working with NU on a major building project that slid from fall to the spring. and that was budgeted in 2015. So it is coming. We hope to have it in this quarter. It is the 14th. I haven't seen it yet, but we're still hoping to have it in this quarter. A good bit of news. General fund had been right close to budget the last few years. We've had additional expenses in police for a variety of public safety reasons. And this year, despite, we had some additional expenses here and there, but we were at 99.75% of budget for the year, so that's a good sign. One of the unintended consequences is our cash balance is low at $4 million. It will rebound. We've already received our first installment of property taxes, so we have no cash flow concerns. But we do wish to get back to a 16.6 instead of 14.4 balance on our fund balance. So we'll count receivables in there and payables, but we would really like to get back to that level. That is the minimum that the council adopted 2 years ago, and we think that helps us with bond ratings and with general cash management. So I'm going to go through. I will not read each table to you. Just note that, as we said, the revenues I've just discussed, the expenses, the revenues, we projected to come in at 98. So 97.5, fairly close on the projection. No major news there. We've talked about this before. We were happy with some revenue sources, such as income tax and the transfer stamp taxes. Sales tax was a little bit under, which was surprising. We've had a lot of activity. So if anyone has questions as I go through the tables, please stop me. Again, general fund expenses under budget slightly, but police and fire, we did increase their budgets in 2015, but they did still go over, and majority of that is due to overtime costs. In both, if you talked with Chief Kleiber, I think he noted that we were close if we didn't pop 10,000 responses for the first time ever.
What about that community development?
Community development, what's the question?
They're over?
No, they're at 99.18.
Oh, you're right. I'm sure I'm not tracking everything right. Never mind, that's fine. That's police.
Yes. He was looking at the police and fire are the ones over, community development is just under. Parks Recreation, we did have a bigger summer program than we anticipated. There were revenues to cover, but expenses are there. And again, since the general fund isn't over budget, there's no need for an amendment there. On the enterprise funds, this is one that we always like to make sure you understand where our business funds are at. So parking is under and water is well under, both due to capital project issues. So in the case of parking, we still have reserves to pay for the projects when they do come next year. And in the case of water, you'll note that revenues and expenses are way under, and that just shows that we didn't do the capital project and we didn't issue the bonds, which would be bond proceeds or IEPA loans that we would count as revenues. So that's why water is under. Sewer, which did not have the capital, it was interesting to note we had revenues right at budget. We had been cutting the water and sewer revenues because of wet weather. We hit the budget this year on sewer. And then solid waste. Again, as we report in the monthly report every month, it's been running a small surplus every year. So we just whittle away at the structural deficit we had in place when we formed the fund, but it keeps getting smaller every year. This is just we like to group the funds so you can have an idea. The one that we will need to do an amendment on is GO debt, and that is purely a issue of law, meaning we did not issue more debt. We refunded $11 million in bonds, so we receive $11 million in replacement bonds and then have to spend and retire the bonds. So we just need to change that budget to reflect that we made that change. That is simply a refinancing of a prior bond issue. in many cases, we wouldn't even have presented it this way in years past. So in this case, we're being a little bit more transparent and saying we'll do a budget amendment for the debt service. There we go. As the speaker noted, we are below on cash compared to last year. I noted in the general fund the reason was timing, so we will expect to have cash get it back up to $6 to $7 million once that permit is shown. The other issue would be a planned spend down capital improvements funds. There's only a small amount of organic revenues in the capital fund, the rest is bond proceeds. So it's actually a good thing to be spending down our bond proceeds because those are borrowed funds and we wish to have them in the streets and not in the bank. So we're happy to see that one dropping from 10 million down to 8 million. That shows that we're catching up on our projects that were budgeted. And
So, real quick too, I'm sorry. So these, for the water fund and sewer fund, the cash balance on those doesn't include if you looked at the earlier slide, the enterprise funds, right? Does these include, so this does not include, they were allocated projects, right? So if we look at the cash balance for those funds, do those include those projects? Are they allocated?
Yes.
Okay.
But what happens is in the case of a given project that wasn't done in water or in water or sewer, we also didn't borrow for it. So the cash flow is going to hopefully stay static, but we end up with a higher liability from bonds or loans payable, but our project is done. So in this case, I'm sorry, I'll get there. Our target for the sewer fund is just over $2 million, and the water fund is just over $3 to $4 million, Mr. Stonebeck. Is that about where we're at with the water fund for a cash balance? $3.5 million. So we're well over the cash balance that we want in the water fund right now, and we do wish to spend that down. And in both of those cases, and including the parking fund, we haven't had a rate change in multiple years for parking or water or sewer. So we're managing within the current revenue stream. And then finally, you'll see that all other funds, those include TIF funds, so we are trying to spend those down as well. So that's also one where we would have a spend down, that is by design. I think the critical thing is to keep an eye on the balances per policy, and in this case, general fund is 2.2% below, water fund is over, sewer is over, and parking is over. So we are okay on our reserves. We've just had some spend downs based on finishing capital projects. And I just went through that. Our biggest issues, and who's doing that? I'm not moving that mouse. Is that you, Oscar? Thank you. Somebody very interested. We're still in stable condition. I would echo a word of caution that cash balance was something that was clearly mentioned by Moody's and Fitch, that we need to be improving our cash balances. So for the coming year, we will wish to stay within budgets, especially in our operating funds. So general fund, we will be keeping an eye on general fund to end the year in a modest surplus to move that fund balance back slightly towards the 16.6%. We just need to show progress. We don't need to get everything done in 1 year. The other thing that Alderman Rainey, you had referenced why January and February payments, and I know we talked with you offline that the bills list had a lot of payments for 2 months. The reorganization with the Public Works Agency and facilities, admin services, we had to reconfigure the chart of accounts, and that slowed the issue of purchase orders, which then had us paying January and February bills all together. So that's over with. We are up and running with the new organization, and we shouldn't have those going forward unless we have a dispute with the contractor. And lastly, We will still always caution that we still do not have a state budget, so we need to be careful on how we move forward in 2016 until that is remedied. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
If that ever happens.
Any other questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. Alderman Holmes?
8.5, A5, Resolution 15-R-16, intergovernment agreement with the Regional Transportation Authority for installation of bike parking at Main Street stations. Let's see, I was trying to figure where the money was. The city received a grant of $70,000, 50 from CMAQ and 14,000 from RTA for the project.
Second.
Okay. Alderman Rainey?
Mr. Chair, the 40 bike parking facilities, does that mean 40 bike slots? I mean,
I had some questions about this, too. Could Mr. Nagar come in, please, or?
I think it's just a definition problem.
Right.
Yeah, it is at those three stations at the Metro.
I'm
CTA.
thinking 40 carousels, no.
Good evening, Dave
Mr.
Stoneback,
Stoneback.
Public Works Agency Director. And it is parking for 40 bicycles.
Or 180, depending on how they jam them in.
That's correct, yes.
And my understanding, too, Mr. Stoneback, is that there's, considering the site, there's significant improvements they have to make, for example, it's located on a slope, so there's some grading or support needed to do this. Can you explain kind of why this is a little bit more complicated than it appears?
That's correct. So, again, this was, when you put in a cost estimate, you want to make sure that you have enough costs that you don't have any unhidden costs at a later date, which then isn't covered by the grant that you're getting. So we included costs to do excavations. We might need to have a retaining wall along the west side of the parking pads, if you will, to hold the soil up. We're not sure if there are underground utilities that might be in the way out there that would have to be relocated as part of the project. We're not sure what the soil conditions are, whether we would have to undercut to put some stone in before we put the concrete base on. So there's a lot of uncertainty because we haven't really started a design on it. So you want to make sure you cover all potential contingencies when you apply for the grant. Hopefully when the project is designed out and more information is known, the cost would come in under that. But you always want to make sure you have sufficient funding in the grant.
And then if, just for the record, could you actually talk about where this funding has come from, the grant?
And for that, I'll have to bring Mr. Nagar
Okay.
up.
I have it.
Oh, you, okay, thank you.
So of the $70,000, 56,000 will be coming from CMAQ, so
I just said
congestion.
that.
I'm sorry?
I just said that, from CMAQ, 56 and 40
And then-
from the other.
What is CMAQ?
The Congestion Mitigation and Air Quality Agency.
Yes.
And then RTA, the Regional Transportation Authority, that runs, or rather contracts for running Metra on that train line. So it's at $14,000. So the city does not have any expense other than our staff work.
So. Any further questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. Alderman Braithwaite, A6.
Miller, I'd like to move item A6. It's Resolution 11-R-16, intergovernmental agreement with the Village of Skokie for Howard Street Improvement Project.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. Alderman Rainey.
Mr. Chair, ordinance 23016 is recommended. It amends the city code, restrictions on lawn sprinkling and other water uses. And just to explain briefly, it has to do with coming into compliance with the state ruling, and that is no watering only on odd side of the street on odd days and even days. You may not water your lawn 2 days in a row. Except for new seeding and sod. and then you may do that.
Second.
This is also it's May to September, is that correct? The restrictions are in effect? Is that right? I think that's right. It's for a limited
Right.
period of the year. Okay.
You can water all December if you want.
Well, you shouldn't, but that's another discussion. Any further questions?
If you want ice skate, you can.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And I'm going to give this one to Alderman Braithwaite. Alderman item A8.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, I'd like to move ordinance 34-0-16. It's increasing the number of Class D liquor license for Red Robin Express, better known as LLC DBA Red Robin's Burger Works, and that's at 1700
You were watching
Maple Street.
City
And
of
I'm also
Evanston,
requesting
Channel
that it
16.
has one reading to suspend the rules and allow for it to be introduced and for action this evening.
Second?
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? In the opinion of the chair, has it. Any items for discussion? Okay, accepting a motion to adjourn. Is there a second? We are adjourned.